Okay guys, today we're going to do an overview on our budget 57 Bel Air, and we're going to show you how we went from this to this. Yeah, we're going to go over what we did, what we didn't do, and what needs attention. So stick around. Hey guys, welcome to Gas Candy, and if you've seen our channel before, welcome back. And if this is your first time watching, thanks for tuning in. This is a channel dedicated to where we try to create a good driving experience and give older cars a second chance. That being said, today we're going to be going over our 57 budget Bel Air and kind of go through how it came from the woods in Stevens, Virginia to back on the road. A lot of steps went into this car. So we're just going to give a brief overlay of what we did, what we didn't do, and what needs more attention to it. So when we first got this car, to say it looked like Swiss cheese would be an insult to Swiss cheese. This thing was, the only thing holding it together was hopes and dreams. So when we first got it back to the shop, when we were working on the body, the first thing that we had to do was actually replace the floor. We had to do that in that order so that the floor would actually bring everything back into square so that we could see where the fenders need to line up and where all the B-pillars and everything, where all that needed to fall. So along with the floorboard, which if you haven't seen us put in, we put in a one-piece floor. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link in the bio. We used a one-piece floor from, I believe we got it from Classic Industries. Also from Classic Industries, we got brand new toe panels up front, and we got brand new rockers to go with the floor pan. Once we got the floorboard and the rockers in and actually got structure back to the car, the back inner side quarter panel was completely rotted away. So we had to go ahead and replace that. So I went ahead and I just made it by hand, which is a lot easier said than done. I was pulling all my knowledge and watching a bunch of YouTube just to get the information right and just to get it to where I needed it to get so there it would work with the floor pan and the trunk pan together. Come up to the driver's side, this driver's side door was completely gone. I mean, it was rotted up to the chrome. There was nothing left to attach anything to. Went to Spring Carlisle. That's a really good place to find all sorts of just weird, unique, and unusual stuff, and they always have one section up there that's nothing but Tri-5 Chevys. So that was my home for the weekend. And we ran across this door and a couple other parts. Now this door is actually a 55 door. 55 and 57, from what I'm told, are interchangeable. 56 is a touch different. And again, if I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments, but every old timer that I talk to that's been building these cars way longer than I have told me the same thing. 55, 57 are the same. 56, the lock is moved or something. I don't know. It's something weird. I probably would have used it, a 56 door, if I didn't have a 55. I really didn't care. It was whatever it took to get this thing on the road. So this is a 55 door, and then we mocked out the holes for the trim on the passenger side, measured them out, and re-drilled them on the 55 door so it would accept the 57 trim. The passenger side door was rotted at the bottom too, but it was rotted on the inside and not the outside. So we were actually lucky enough to come across, again, Spring Carlisle. When I got this door, the same gentleman also had the inside lower structure. And we have a little video on that. I think we can link that one too in the bio to show you kind of what we did. It's very tricky because the door has a factory curve to it. And when you install the inner structure, if you make it flat and try to weld it all at once, it's not going to turn out the way you want it to. It's tack, check, tack, check, tack, check, and it takes forever. But that's the only way that you're going to get it to have the same factory curve and actually look right once it goes on the car and have everything line up. That was another big thing, trying to get everything to line up. These things, the doors, the front fenders, and the hood, everything has tons of adjustment points and shim points, and you have to remember in 57 it's not like they're doing it today. It wasn't exact precision. So a lot of guys try to get these cars 100% perfect, and if you want to spend 1,000 hours doing it to get something absolutely perfect, more power to you, go for it. Us, I like to have something to where we can get it where it's good enough to drive and have fun with. So we went ahead and got everything within, like I said, the good enough range, sanded everything down, and I'm talking sand, like 80 grit sand, 60 grit sand. I mean, we took this stuff almost down to the bare metal, put mud where we needed mud. If you look down the side, I'm sure you can see where it's at. Sanded the mud down to make everything as flat as we could, as smooth as we could, as fast as we could. Now again, fast and good do not go together. So it was good enough for me. Once we got everything sanded, I went ahead and I put 2 coats of super thick primer on this. I mean, I had the gun turned all the way open, so I basically brushed it on without the brush. Once we got 2 thick coats of primer on, I went ahead with 120, knocked it all down, and then I went over it again with, like, I think we used like 500 or something like that. It's 800. We didn't go super fine. Just got everything down to where everything was nice and smooth. Once we did that, we airbrushed everything off. I already had the windows out before I painted it, so I went ahead and painted the dash and the inside trim purple because I just thought purple would be a cool color. Purple and black always go good together. Black kind of goes good with anything, but purple definitely gives it that that little extra flavor that I like. So since the glass and everything is out, we went ahead and taped up everything, all the trim was off, and then we went ahead to our good old Tractor Supply and picked up Tractor Supply Black. Yes, a whopping $89 for a whole gallon. We mixed it a little thick, so I had 1 shot to do it. And that 1 shot took us about 16 hours because I kept getting the mix wrong. Once we got it figured out and actually got the gun to spray, this is kind of what you're left with. You can still see dings and dents in here and there, and again, she is not perfect, but she's fun to drive, and we can fix it as we go. Alright, so once we got the paint on, it was time to put the chrome, the stainless steel, and the windows back in, starting with the windows. All these windows were completely smoked and garbage except for the back window. The back window is the only window on this car that is original to this car from 1957 as far as I can tell. The front window was fogged up, cracked. I was able to pick this up from the same guy that I was able to buy the door and the lower skin for up in Carlisle. The side windows, the door windows, the side windows were all bought brand new from a local guy right around the way in Delaware. He's got a bunch of stuff. We got that from him. We had all the seal kit from him for actually put the windows in. We got the front seal kit and the back seal kit for the windows to put them in. They're just roped in, so it made it like super simple. I do have the vent windows for it, but I like leaving these vent windows in with the cracks in them because these are still original to the car from 1957. I think it looks cool. The mirrors were bought from Speedway. The windshield wipers are original, even though they do have new blades on them, but there's no motor attached because the motor is super expensive and I'm way too cheap. All the other parts on the stainless steel, that came with the car that's original from 1957. The front bumper, the front chrome piece, all this stuff is all original from 1957 from this car. And I love it. I love the scratches and the scarring and all the Road Warrior stuff that is this car. So when we first got the Bel Air, it had a 350 and a 350 turbo, and nothing wrong with that power plant. It can be used, it's been used hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times, and everything from a Vega all the way up to a Suburban and everything in between. In the 80s, they were throwing them in everything. And the LS is no different. People are throwing them in everything now, and I wanted one, and I had one, so I'm going to use one. So this is a bone stock 5.3 out of a 2003 Silverado 1500 two-wheel drive. The 5.3 LS with the 4L60E, this is all truck all the way. There is nothing different than what you'd find in any other 03 Silverado. I still have the truck alternator, the truck bracketry, everything. The only thing that's missing off this engine is the power steering pump because I don't have power steering on this car just yet. So the things that we replaced to make this work in this car, we used ICT motor mounts, we used eBay special manifolds, because LS headers for a tri-5 are really super expensive, and these are nice and cheap. We used an eBay special air cleaner tube, or air cleaner and air cleaner tube for the intake. This is still the stock truck intake. We didn't even modify that. We put new injectors in it, new coil packs, new spark plugs, new spark plug wires, and a universal throttle cable. And all that stuff was bought from eBay Motors. But it works super well. The computer is the original stock computer with all the VATs deleted, and we used an LSX mounting bracket to mount it up underneath the dash to run everything. eBay also came through with the wiring harness. So we bought down their traditional cut down harness, and that gave us plenty of wire, plenty of everything that we needed. Even if we wanted to run a few more systems, we still have it. So now that we got the engine in, we got to feed it. It's in its new home and she's hungry. How are we going to do that? Well, we went ahead and bought a stock replacement fuel tank with stock straps. We bought a stock replacement fuel sending unit with the upgraded 3/8 line. The 5/16 line that came with this car from 1957 is not going to give you the volume that you need to feed 5.3, especially if you want to do any upgrades later on, which we do. Once we got the tank in place, the threads coming out of the sending unit are the National Pipe thread. We bought an adapter fitting to go from National Pipe thread to AN line. We attached a soft line to the fuel pump that's attached to the frame. From there, we've switched from soft line to hard line aluminum. Hard line aluminum 3/8 goes all the way down the frame rail on the driver's side and comes up onto the firewall just in front of the driver's side door, where we switch back to nylon braided 6 line, which is another soft line. Soft line comes up, goes across the firewall, where we attach it into our fuel regulator. So the reason we went with an aftermarket fuel regulator is because the original intake that we had for this and the fuel rail did not have one integrated into it. So we went with the aftermarket one with the external gauge so that it would help us monitor the pressure in the system, so that we can tune it up or tune it down depending on what future plans we have for the engine. Maybe bigger cam, maybe turbo, whatever you want to do. You definitely want to have control on the amount of fuel that you're running to the motor. The fuel regulator also returns the excess fuel back to the tank, which again attaches at a soft line from the regulator to the firewall down below the driver's side door, where it turns back into aluminum hard line, runs back to the tank, where we ran it back into the tank with a 3/8 retrofit return bung. I think we have a video of that. If we do, we'll show that in the bio or show it in the feed, whatever. But that's the fuel system. That's how she runs. Okay, so now we're on to interior. A lot of people freak out when they start doing interior until you get to old cars, because it's just big squares, and that's exactly what this was. For this piece, this one-piece door, which we still don't have the armrest, but I'm kind of digging this very clean look, so I don't know if we're going to add it or not. But what we did is we took a cardboard trace of the door, put it up against the door, cut it out, converted that cardboard trace out to a piece of Lawan, which is a very thin piece of wood. This is a spare piece that we had laying around. So this is Lawan. It's 1/8 inch thick, something like that. Not too, you don't want it too super thick, because you got to have room for your handles and your window regulators for the holes. So once we had this cut out in Lawan, we just went to Amazon, picked out their diamond stitching, which, I mean, I love it. We went ahead and just wrapped the Lawan, stapled on the backside to where you couldn't see it. The holes were already marked out on Lawan once we did the tracing from the cardboard to the Lawan. So once the padding was actually put on Lawan, we just made a couple incisions with an X-Acto knife to make room for the window regulators and the door latch. So when it came to interior, there's a few creature comforts that I wasn't willing to give up on. In 1957, they did not have tilt steering wheel. Now we do. The only thing I had to do to modify it was I had to cut the lower part of this gauge cluster, because the gauge cluster attaches into the steering shaft that goes to the floor that attaches to the steering box. The inner shaft is still attached to the box with no rag joint, unfortunately. So if I ever get into a front end collision, the steering wheel is going to go through my chest. But that's a risk I'm willing to take. On top of that, we went with a blacked out fascia for the gauge cluster and used a GPS sending unit with an old style needle gauge that works on a GPS monitor. So this thing is good within 5 miles an hour, roughly. Again, it runs off a GPS, so whatever the takeaway from that is. I like the way it looked, and it functions perfectly, and it goes up to 120 instead of the 85 that the original 57 Bel Air came with. So that's important when you're running from the cops. On top of that, the fuel gauge is the original fuel gauge that attaches to the it is aftermarket, but it's the original, what the original fuel sending unit would be for 1957. So the fuel gauge actually works, and it works like it's supposed to work from 57, even though we have all the newer parts into it. The temperature gauge doesn't work. It's just there for aesthetics right now. However, I went to Advanced Auto and I bought the little triple pack for like $38. You know, the small little hideaway ones. These all work with an adapter kit bought from Amazon for the metric style LS. So everything on the LS is metric. These come in standard. So if you just buy the Amazon special conversion bungs, you can still use these from AutoZone or Advance or Pep Boys or wherever you're doing your O'Reilly's, wherever you're doing your shopping at. So if you still have these and think they won't work on the LS, they will. You just need the adapter kit. The brake pedal it's the same brake pedal, but instead of it going to a manual brake, we did the power brake conversion. The entire front end now has disc brakes and power disc brakes that would come off what you would see on like a 67 Chevelle or 70 Goat or something like that. So it definitely has the stopping power now to go with the added horsepower that we put into it. So along with the steering wheel and the new modern comforts, I wanted to be comfortable as I was sitting also. So we went ahead and stole these seats out of a 2010 or 2008 Pontiac G6. I think it was 2008 Pontiac G6. One, because they're power. Two, because they're heated. And with lower back issues, a heated seat that reclines is very nice to have. We haven't had them wired in yet, but they are going to be eventually. So what I did was I made my own bracket for the seat, so I only got away with drilling 2 holes into the new floor instead of 37. Once the 2 holes are drilled for the seat, we used a thread cert to seal it into the floor and then sealed over it so there wouldn't be any leaks and no water could get into the cab. The base of the seat is actually 1/8-inch square tubing where I made my own bracket and made my own to make everything work with the 2 factory holes on the outside of the seat, if that makes sense. That way the seats are both square, they're both level. It kind of, if the Pontiac symbol wasn't there, you'd never know they didn't go with the car. On top of that, for the wiring of the car, we did everything to relays, and the original switch for the lights wouldn't work. The thing was just seized, and every time we tried to get it to work, it would start a new fire, so we got rid of it. And we just hooked everything up to a toggle switch that works the relays, that goes to the dash lights, the turn signals, the headlights, tail lights, and everything that the tag light, everything that you need in between. Aside from the interior light not being hooked up, what we did decide to hook up was the dimmer switch. So we used a factory style aftermarket dimmer switch, which is on the floor, which is that little button down there. If you were born after 2010, you probably have no idea what that is, but that is what controls your high and low beams. All this is wired up to an Amazon hot rod fuse box, which actually goes through the whole car, goes to the computer, the ECU, and wires everything in together. That's where you get all your relays and everything. Painless offers the same thing, but it was a little bit more expensive, so we decided to go with the Amazon special, only because this thing was killing me. I was hemorrhaging money on this thing, but it was all worth it there in the end. The radio that we're using, I haven't found a stock radio yet that I like. There is a company, I believe they're called Retrofit, and they do make a stock appearing replacement stereo that's actually Bluetooth capable, and you have your AM, FM, and maybe even CD. I don't know. I vaguely touched on them a little bit, but again, their stuff is really good, and they're not paying me to say that. I'm just telling you what the reviews are. People seem to like them and they seem to work. I just didn't have time to order it and get it installed in time. So what we did is we just used a basic Marine Bluetooth receiving unit, and I didn't want to cut up the dash. That's why everything on this car is like below the dash, because I didn't want to cut anything into it. These dashes are getting harder and harder to come by They're a pain in the butt to replace because they're actually welded into the firewall. So I tuck everything up underneath that I can. But that thing works good. It'll work great for right now. It's only pumping out 2 6x9s right now. Eventually, I'm probably going to have maybe another 6-inch round up here, or so. I might try to hide it somewhere. I haven't really decided yet, but the 2 6x9s in the back is definitely a welcome change, and just hearing air and noise for 4 hours to the beach. So I'll take that every day. The shifter that we ran was a B&M. I don't think it's a Z-Gate, but I'm going to call it a Z-Gate. Z-Gate shifter pack that's actually built for the 4L60E, so you have that overdrive. So it's 1, 2, 3 drive. And I'm using a prop-up stand. I think that's also from B&M. Might be from Amazon. I don't know. It worked. I liked it. I bought it. Once we had the shifter mocked out and seats mocked out, it was time to put the carpet over it and really make it a pain in the butt to try to find everything. So that's what we did. This is a carpet. I believe we got this from Classic Industries, I believe. And it's their 3-piece carpet setup for any Tri-5 Chevy. You can get it in like 18 different colors. I went with black just because black matched the interior that we were going with. It goes good against the purple, and it's the most common color to get, and it's the most cheapest color to get also. On the back seat, the upholstery is actually, on the bottom part of that, is original to 1957. So that is what came factory in 1957 on the bottom of the back seat. The top of the back seat is a completely different story because this car did not have the top of the back seat once we got it. So we had to refoam it and reskin it. But I gotta be honest with you, I'm severely lacking in that category. So we did a real quick wrap with a couple hall rings, some thick foam, and some really super cheap Walmart special pleather. Yes, pleather. Black matches everything, so at 30 miles an hour, you can't see the hair on a galloping horse. And that's exactly the mentality I took when we redid the back of the back seat. The only thing that we added on the interior, aside from that stuff, was I put in a couple belts, just to make it kind of semi-safe. And then, oh yeah, before we put the carpet on, we actually did the whole interior in the kill mat. So there's kill mat all on the floor, all in the seam. We seam sealed everything, and then put the kill mat down, and then actually put the kill mat on top of the roof, and it made the car just so much more dense, so much more. It doesn't have that tinny din sound going down the road. Anytime you have an older car, you're gonna have noises that new cars don't make, and the kill mat just takes care of so much of that. We actually have it. I think we have it going up in the. No, we don't have it in the doors. Yeah, no, we do have it in the doors. Yeah, we have it on the doors and the inside of the corners. We did the whole thing. And actually, wherever there's carpet at, underneath the carpet is kill mat, all the way up to the very top. If I pull this back a little bit, see, it's right there, and it cuts down on everything. Cuts down on a lot of the heat too. So, you know, in these cars, you're going to get heat because if you're running dual exhaust, hell, even if you're just running single exhaust, you're going to get heat on one side. So the kill mat actually takes care of a lot of that. I was very impressed with it, and I will definitely use it again on the next build, probably on the wagon. All right, so that is our overview of our Budget 57 Bel Air. I am sure there is a metric ton of stuff that we forgot to mention or just forgot in general. If you've seen anything that you have a question about, or if you want to know any products that we use or any places that we go or anything about the car in more detail, feel free to leave us a comment. If you like the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and you can stay up to date on all of our future content. We got a whole bunch of stuff coming up. But thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one.